What motivated you to come here to speak to the Mexican youth about human values?
I wanted to come here. I travel many places now in the world, and because I've learned so much since my accident, and I realize how important it is to make a difference, that I wanted to come and encourage all of you, particularly those of you who are students, who are going to be the future, to take that path of giving back, of thinking a little more about other people than ourselves. And that's a message I try to take wherever I go, because that really is what's going to change the world.
Okay, the next question is, how is your perspective of life before, during, and after your accident?
I think I talked about that in my remarks, so I think we should go to the next question. I don't want to repeat that. I think you got that. Yes?
Did you get the main points? Yes.
No, we'll go on to another one.
Okay, here goes the next one. Who taught you strength and courage, and how have you developed it?
Really, two things. After the accident, my family taught me strength and courage. My wife Dana and my 3 children. You see, I have to admit, because I've always been somebody, a perfectionist, that if I ever made a mistake, if I had an injury, that it was okay as long as it didn't affect anybody else. But becoming paralyzed, I thought I'd be a terrible burden to my family. And they convinced me that it was okay, even if it meant adjusting to life in a wheelchair, even if it meant a loss of physical freedom, that it didn't change their love for me at all. And the other thing that taught me strength, actually, was my life before the accident. Even though I was pursuing a path of success, that I wanted to be a well-known actor, it took a long time. It took discipline. The theater is a difficult profession. Many people try for a career and fail. And then even when you do succeed, you have to give your best every time. Every time the camera rolls, or every time you go on stage, you have to give your absolute best, whether you feel like it or not. And I've learned since the accident that the way to keep going is to do things, to take action, whether you feel like it or not. And that's helped me tremendously.
First, we have a congratulation and then a question. The congratulation is, we wanted to congratulate your wife, Dana, and let you know that she has already set an example with her enthusiasm and determination in helping you and learning you to cope as a family through all difficult times. She has set a higher standard for women all over the world. And the question is, we would like for you to share the moment when your wife Dana told you, "You are still you, and I love you.
Yes, well, I regained consciousness after 3 days after the accident, and I was told what my situation was, that I was paralyzed from the shoulders down, and that I would probably never recover any movement, and that I would be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. And as I said before, I thought then that such a life would not be worth living. But Dana came to the room, and she knelt by the bed, and I told her that maybe it would be best to let me go. And she said, "It's your choice, but I want you to know that you're still you, and I love you." And that made all the difference. Love without condition, love no matter what. That is everything.
Mr. Reeve, in your book, Still Me, you talk about a picture of a Mexican pyramid, which inspires you to achieve the goal of climbing it one day. Do you have any other inspirations that make you want to leave a trace on people?
I think that the temple in Machu Picchu is so beautiful because it's all steps going up into the sky. And I imagine, I put a picture of it above my bed when I was in intensive care, and when my life was hanging in the balance. And I realized that it's the perfect symbol because the top of the temple, when you reach the top, then you go into the sky. And yet you can't get there without climbing every single step. And those steps are big and difficult. And I think that's a metaphor for our life. That we may not reach the very top, but we can see it, and we can see the sky, and we can see the steps, and there's no reason not to try to climb as high as we can.
What do you recommend to a family with a person just like you on a wheelchair?
For the families of people with disabilities, it can be a very difficult time, particularly when there is not enough help, when there's no nurses or no therapy, or maybe not even good equipment like a bed or good nutrition. It can be very, very hard. Because those of us who have suffered an injury, we can easily become angry. And then the family has to deal with that anger. And love can really be tested. I've seen disabilities rip families apart. But in my experience, those families were already not close, loving families before the accident. And so the accident, the injury, to an individual in the family made life worse, and sometimes made the family break up. On the other hand, as in my case, a strong, loving family that is in place before a tragedy can learn to adapt and grow stronger. The bonds grow stronger. The communication is stronger. And the love becomes even stronger. So, my advice would be to be in loving relationships that are true and real. And then, if something bad happens, you'll find a way to get through it. But you have to begin with love first, because it can be hard to find it later.
Why do you think the people in the world, look for happiness in material things? What do you think our world needs so that we can value what is really important in life?
Unfortunately, we live in the information age, and then we live in an age where there are so many material things that we think we need to make our lives better. And those values, or those ideas of material things being important are now seen around the world, whereas a couple of generations ago we didn't know so much about what was happening in other countries, and we didn't have corporations that have global offices so they can spread material things everywhere. Of course, commerce is important. Of course, a strong economy is important. But I believe that we can have a strong economy, we can have successful business, but just as in our relationships with other people, our businesses can be guided by good ethics and high principles of service. In other words, technology or material things that help other people. And this goes in any industry, that we can do things that are better for the environment, that are better for health care, jobs that are worth doing, that create projects that are good for people. I think that we need to look at that now so that we go forwards instead of backwards, so that we use the idea of capitalism or free enterprise, but we put it to the service of not only our own countries, but countries around the world. If we were to do that, if our executives, if people in charge of industry and in charge of discovering new technologies, if they were to be guided by that same moral principle that you are, in the idea of leaving a trace, the trace can be a good one, but sometimes companies leave a bad trace, then that needs to be changed, and that can be changed. We can have that kind of material success, there can be prosperity, but it should be happen in the service of other people. That's what we need to do next.
What would you say your goal or your mission in life is?
Well, my mission in life right now is to use the advantages I have of being able to talk to people in our government, people in science, people in industry, the public, the media. I'm lucky that I'm in a position to communicate. So I want to use that ability I have, or that privilege that I have, to try to do more for people who are left by the wayside. So my recovery means nothing if it doesn't translate into better therapy, better equipment, more help for people like me around the world. Some of you are here in this room. And my job is to take whatever comes my way, whatever improvement comes my way, whatever therapies or cures that are found, to make sure that they don't just go to lucky people like me, but to everyone else, like some of you here in this room. And I'm going to make sure that I do my best in that.
What would you tell a person that has the capacity to help other people but doesn't want to do it or doesn't do it?
I would say to anybody, let's say you want to volunteer for something, but you have a friend who doesn't want to. Just tell them, come along one time, and let's go do something. Maybe we go to a village. Or maybe we help with reading or something. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I went twice a week into a city in New Jersey, which is very poor, and the public education standard is low. And I would go with some of my friends, and we would read and we would teach reading to children our own age who were reading at a very low level. And we tried to get them excited about reading. And we brought them books that would be interesting. And it worked because we were their peers instead of teachers. We could talk to them about things they were interested in. We could relate to them because they were the same age. And then we'd give them books they liked to read, rather than things they were made to read. And then learning became fun. So sometimes we would bring people, fellow students who really didn't want to help, who weren't interested in doing something like that, bring them with us for an evening, say, give it a try. And you know what? Every one of them got involved. So what I would say is just bring somebody with you. Let them share the experience. And they'll probably stay and want to do more.
What did you mean by you are more free?
It's funny, since my accident, I nearly died 2 times. once when I was first injured, and then in July of 1995, when I had a bad reaction to a drug. And somehow, when you nearly leave the planet, it gives you a lot of freedom. In fact, people have said to me, aren't you depressed about turning 50 and becoming an old man? And I said, look, I nearly died when I was 42, so turning 50 is no big deal. I'm happy to turn 50. And I found that, it's so important, and I hope you'll all remember this, that it's so important not to waste time. And unfortunately, sometimes we're brought up to be polite. Yes, we should be polite and have good manners and be good citizens, but not at the cost of saying things that we don't mean. I think so much damage is done. So much time is wasted when we do or say things that we don't mean, that are not the truth. That was the case of my brother Kevin. Why did he teach that rich school? Because our parents wanted him to. And then he realized that wasn't the truth for him. And he went to Africa with a backpack. And doing that was the truth for him. So when I say that I'm more free, it's fun. I get into a lot of trouble, actually. Because I'll say anything. I don't care. And I think that as long as I say what I really mean, I say what I understand to be the truth, I think I'm doing myself and other people a really good service, because it saves a lot of time. And I strongly recommend you do it. And you don't need to break your neck to learn that that's the best way to go through life. To tell the truth and live the truth as you know it.
Do you have a higher goal in your life beyond the one of improving your health and movement of your body?
Yes, I think I've talked about that already. You should try the next question.
Okay. If you had to leave one message for the students here of Tecnológico of Monterrey, what would it be for them to leave a trace here in Monterrey?
Well, I think I've already talked about that as well. Do you have another question? There must be another one.
How have you improved in your health since the last 7 years, since your accident?
Well, what's interesting is that scientists have found a new, something very new, and that is that even if you're paralyzed, from a spinal cord injury, in many cases there are nerves that are still alive, but it's still the accident put them to sleep, and only exercise can wake them up. Sometimes it takes years of exercise, repeating over and over and over again. And the reason that they've always said that after an injury you will only get recovery up to a year after your injury and then no more is because nobody's ever been given a chance to exercise beyond that. So, beginning in 1995, I started exercising on a special bicycle, using electrodes to make the muscles move. I use special electrodes on all the muscles of my body to keep them strong. And I go into a swimming pool, and without gravity, I have learned over time to straighten my legs, to move my feet, to open and close my arms, so that even though I'm still sitting in a wheelchair, that's mostly because of gravity, but in a pool or lying down, just by keeping up the strength of my muscles, and also by imagining a connection between my mind and my body, I've been able to recover beyond the expectations. And now what I want to do is to make sure that healthcare providers and insurance companies give other people who are not rich like me, give them the chance to exercise so that their bodies can learn again and the central nervous system can learn again to come alive. And I'll give you one example of something truly incredible that's happened. Not to me, but to others. And this therapy is now spreading around the world. It's called treadmill stepping therapy. And it was invented at UCLA, University of California at Los Angeles. And a doctor there began to put patients who are only paralyzed from the waist down, who have strong arms and can use their upper bodies. And what he did was he put them on a treadmill for about an hour a day for about 60 days. And the motion of the treadmill, just like anyone you'd find in a gym anywhere, the motion made the legs move. And then the energy that is in the spinal cord began to remember how to walk. And after about 60 days of training, almost every one of the patients he put on that treadmill were able to walk on their own by themselves, using a cane, but some all by themselves. And so far, he has now gotten 500 paraplegics out of their wheelchairs and back to work and back to school and living their lives. So that kind of approach, that thinking, when he proposed it, nobody believed it. They said, that's a stupid idea, it'll never work. And it took him 6 years to get funding from the University of California to try. And he succeeded, but he never gave up. So I want to see that therapy spread. Because I know there are people sitting in wheelchairs right here who have strong upper bodies but can't use their legs, who could benefit, no matter how long they've been injured, by walking on a treadmill. So we have to do everything. The scientists have to fight to find a cure. But we have to do everything we can for people to have a better life now with the proper therapy. Con esto terminamos la sesión de